The silver halls of the Federation Council building buzzed with quiet activity. Ambassador Zethka adjusted his ceremonial robes and reviewed the datapad one more time. Another new species had been discovered on the outer rim of the galaxy. The species called themselves humans, and they came from a small blue planet named Earth. Zethka had seen this process hundreds of times before. A young species would develop basic space travel, make contact with Federation scouts, and within a few months they would be eager members of the galactic community. It was always the same pattern. They would be amazed by Federation technology, grateful for the guidance, and happy to trade their primitive knowledge for real advancement. The initial reports about humans seemed typical. Their ships looked like metal boxes held together with welding and hope. They used chemical rockets and nuclear engines that the Federation had abandoned thousands of years ago. Their planet was divided into hundreds of different governments that spent more time fighting each other than exploring space. Everything about them screamed primitive civilization. Another routine integration, Zethka muttered to his assistant, a young Vrex named Tikmal. These humans will probably faint when they see our gravity manipulators. Tikmal nodded eagerly. Fresh out of the Federation Academy, he had never seen a first contact ceremony. Do you think they will offer anything interesting in trade, Ambassador? Zethka laughed, a sound like wind chimes in his throat. Unlikely. Most primitive species have little to offer beyond raw materials and labor. Though I hear these humans are quite creative with their warfare. Perhaps they have some amusing weapon designs. The Federation had protocols for everything. First, they would demonstrate superior technology to establish the natural order. Then they would offer membership in exchange for compliance with Federation law. Finally, they would begin the slow process of uplifting the primitive species to basic galactic standards. It usually took about 50 years to get a new species properly integrated. The humans had been observing Federation space for several months now. Their crewed ships had been spotted near trade routes and communication relays. They seemed to be mapping the galaxy in their slow, methodical way. Federation Command had decided it was time to make formal contact before the humans accidentally interfered with something important. What puzzled Zethka was the sheer number of human ships that kept appearing. For a species that supposedly had just developed space travel, they seemed to have a lot of vessels. The reports showed human ships in dozens of different star systems, all at the same time. Either they had built their entire fleet very quickly, or they had been space-capable much longer than anyone realized. Sir, Tikmal interrupted his thoughts. The advanced team is reporting something odd. Zethka looked up from his datapad. What kind of odd? The human ships. They are not using any recognizable propulsion system. Our sensors detect the ships moving, but we cannot identify how they are doing it. Probably some variant of ion drive we have not catalogued yet, Zethka replied dismissively. These young species often stumble onto unusual applications of basic physics. But privately, he felt a small twinge of curiosity. The Federation had mapped every possible propulsion system in the galaxy. Their scientists had spent millions of years perfecting the art of moving through space. If humans had found something new, it might actually be worth studying. The first human delegation was scheduled to arrive within the hour. Zethka had arranged for the full ceremonial treatment. The Federation's most impressive technologies would be on display in the main council chamber. Holographic projectors would show the scope of Federation space. Gravity manipulators would demonstrate control over fundamental forces. Molecular assemblers would create complex objects from raw atoms. It was always the same reaction. The primitive species would stare in wonder, ask hesitant questions, and then eagerly agree to whatever terms the Federation offered. Within a generation, they would be grateful citizens of the galactic community, their own crude technologies forgotten in favor of proper Federation science. Ambassador, came another voice over the communication system. We are receiving a transmission from the human fleet. Put it through, Zethka ordered. The holographic display flickered to life, showing a middle-aged human female in what appeared to be a military uniform. Her dark hair was pulled back in a practical style, and her eyes held an intelligence that seemed to take in every detail of the council chamber. Greetings, she said in perfectly clear Federation standard. I am Commander Sarah Chen of the Earth Exploration Fleet. We appreciate your invitation to meet with the Federation Council. Zethka blinked in surprise. Most primitive species required translation assistance for their first formal contact. How had the humans learned Federation standards so quickly? "Welcome, Commander Chen," he replied, following the standard protocol. "We look forward to introducing your species to the broader galactic community. How many representatives will you be bringing?" "Just myself and 2 advisors," Chen answered. "We prefer to keep things simple." Another oddity. Most species brought enormous delegations to first contact meetings, eager to show their most important leaders. The humans seemed almost casual about the whole process. "Very well," Zethka said. "We have prepared demonstrations of Federation technology that we believe will interest you greatly." Something flickered across Chen's face that might have been amusement. "That sounds fascinating. We have also prepared some demonstrations of our own if you are interested." Zethka exchanged glances with Tikmal. It was unusual for primitive species to offer technology demonstrations during first contact. Usually they were too overwhelmed by Federation capabilities to think about showing off their own crude inventions. "Of course," he replied politely. "We always enjoy learning about new approaches to scientific problems." The transmission ended, leaving Zethka staring at the empty holographic display. Something about the human commander bothered him, though he could not quite identify what it was. She had seemed confident, not the usual mix of fear and wonder that characterized first contact meetings. "Tikmal," he said slowly, "pull up the latest intelligence reports on human ship movements." The young Vrex quickly accessed the files. "Sir, there have been some developments. Our long-range sensors are detecting human vessels in the Kepler sector, the Vega cluster, and the outer spiral regions. All simultaneously." Zethka felt a chill run down his spine. Those regions were thousands of light-years apart. Even with the Federation's fastest ships, it would take weeks to travel between them. How are the humans managing to be in so many places at once? "Are we certain these are the same species?" he asked. "The ship configurations match perfectly, sir, but—" Tikmal hesitated. "But what?" "Our scientists cannot explain how they are achieving such rapid deployment. The energy signatures don't match any known propulsion system. It's almost as if they are using some form of space-folding technology. But that's impossible. The mathematics alone would require computational systems beyond anything we've ever built." Zethka stood slowly, his ceremonial robes rustling in the quiet chamber. For the first time in his long diplomatic career, he felt a flutter of uncertainty. The humans were supposed to be primitive. Their technology was supposed to be crude and simple. So why did he suddenly feel like he was the one who was unprepared for this meeting? Outside the great windows of the council chamber, the stars seemed to shimmer with new possibilities, and somewhere among them, human ships moved through space in ways that defied everything the Federation thought they knew about the universe. The Federation Council chamber was a masterpiece of galactic engineering. The dome stretched 300 meters above the floor, its surface displaying a real-time map of Federation space. Thousands of star systems glowed like jewels against the dark background, connected by the bright lines of trade routes and communication networks. Commander Sarah Chen stood at the entrance, taking in the sight with calm appreciation. Behind her, Dr. Marcus Webb and engineer Lisa Park waited quietly. All 3 humans wore simple gray uniforms that looked almost primitive next to the elaborate robes and ceremonial armor of the Federation. Delegates, Ambassador Zethka approached with what he hoped was an impressive entourage. Representatives from a dozen major species flanked him, their various forms creating a display of galactic diversity. The insectoid cricks clicked their mandibles in greeting. The gaseous ethereals shimmered in their containment suits. The massive Gorlan delegates made the floor vibrate with each step. "Welcome to the heart of galactic civilization," Zethka announced, his voice echoing through the chamber. "Today you will witness technologies that have brought peace and prosperity to over 10,000 worlds." Chen nodded politely. "We appreciate the hospitality, Ambassador. This is quite impressive." Zethka gestured to the center of the chamber where a series of display platforms had been arranged. "Shall we begin the demonstration?" The first platform rose from the floor, revealing a device that hummed with barely contained energy. Crystalline structures pulsed with blue light, surrounded by rings of exotic metals that seemed to bend space around them. "This is a gravity manipulation array," announced Dr. Velshan, the Federation's chief scientist. "It allows us to create localized gravitational fields of any strength or direction." The device activated, and suddenly objects throughout the chamber began floating. Water flowed upward in spiraling streams. Small decorative stones danced through the air in complex patterns. Several Federation delegates allowed themselves to drift gently off the ground, their robes billowing dramatically. The human delegation watched with interest, but none of them seemed particularly amazed. Dr. Webb took out a small device and pointed it at the gravity array, taking readings. "Fascinating approach," he commented. "You're using crystalline matrices to focus the gravitational field." "Very elegant," Dr. Velshan blinked in surprise. Most primitive species could barely comprehend what they were seeing, let alone analyze the technical principles involved. The second demonstration involved molecular assembly. A platform displayed raw carbon, silicon, and various metallic elements in small containers. The Federation technician activated another complex machine, and within minutes, the raw materials had been transformed into a perfect crystalline sculpture that sparkled with internal light. "Matter conversion at the molecular level," Zethka explained proudly. "We can create any object we can imagine as long as we have the base elements." Engineer Park studied the process intently. "Impressive precision control," she said. "Though I notice you're limited to working with existing matter. You can't actually create new elements." Again, the Federation delegates exchanged glances. The human was discussing their most advanced technology as if she were reviewing a student project. The third demonstration was the crown jewel of Federation science. A massive holographic projector activated, filling the chamber with a three-dimensional map of the entire galaxy. Stars pulsed in real time, showing current conditions across billions of worlds. Communication networks sparkled like neural pathways, carrying information faster than light across impossible distances. "Instantaneous communication across any distance," Zethka announced. "No matter how far apart, any 2 points in Federation space can exchange information immediately." For the first time, Commander Chen showed genuine interest. She walked closer to the projection, studying the network patterns. "You're using quantum entanglement," she observed, "but somehow you've stabilized it across galactic distances." "That's actually quite clever," Dr. Velshan puffed up with pride. "It took our greatest minds 3,000 years to perfect the technique." Chen nodded appreciatively. "We can see why you'd be proud of that achievement." Ambassador Zethka stepped forward, preparing for the climactic moment of the demonstration. This was when primitive species typically fell to their knees in wonder, begging to join the Federation and learn these miraculous technologies. "As you can see," he said formally, "the Federation has mastered the fundamental forces of the universe. We offer membership to your species, along with access to all of these technologies. In return, we ask only that you follow Federation law and contribute your knowledge to our shared scientific advancement." The three humans looked at each other. Something passed between them that might have been amusement. "That's very generous," Chen said carefully. "Before we respond, would you be interested in seeing some of our own technology?" The request caught everyone off guard. Primitive species didn't offer to demonstrate their crude inventions after witnessing Federation science. They were usually too overwhelmed to think about their own capabilities. "Of course," Zethka replied, though he couldn't hide his confusion. "We are always interested in unique perspectives on scientific problems." Chen smiled and gestured to Dr. Webb. "Marcus, would you show them the repair demonstration?" Dr. Webb pulled out what looked like a simple metal rod about the size of a pencil. He walked over to one of the Federation's molecular assembly platforms and, before anyone could stop him, used the rod to carve a deep gouge across the machine's surface. Alarms immediately began blaring. The damaged assembly platform sparked and went offline. Dr. Velshan rushed forward, his face pale with shock. "What have you done?" he cried. "That machine took years to calibrate." "Watch," Webb said simply. He touched the metal rod to the damaged surface. The gouge began to disappear. Not slowly, not with visible mechanical repair, but instantly. The molecular assembly platform looked exactly as it had before, completely functional and undamaged. The chamber fell silent except for the quiet hum of machinery. "Self-repairing matter," Chen explained casually. "The rod contains programmable atoms that can restore any damaged structure to its original configuration." Engineer Park stepped forward next. "Lisa, show them the adaptation demo." Park produced what appeared to be a simple black cube. She tossed it gently into the air where it hovered motionless. "Watch what happens when you try to scan it," she suggested. Dr. Velshan aimed a tricorder at the floating cube. The device immediately began displaying impossible readings. According to the scanner, the cube was simultaneously solid and gaseous, hot and cold, massive and weightless. It's adapting to your sensors, Park explained. Every time you try to analyze it, it changes its properties to confuse the readings. Perfect camouflage against any detection system. But Chen wasn't finished. She walked to the center of the chamber and pulled out her own device and something that looked like a combination of smartphone and crystal formation. "This is our communication system," she said simply. The device activated, and suddenly the chamber filled with voices. Not translated voices, but direct communication in the native languages of dozens of different species. Conversations were happening in real time across the galaxy, but these weren't following the Federation's communication networks. "How?" Dr. Velshan whispered. "We don't use quantum entanglement," Chen replied. "We use dimensional folding. Distance becomes irrelevant when you can step outside normal space-time." The Federation delegates stared at the humans in growing shock. Everything they had just witnessed violated fundamental principles of physics. The Federation's greatest achievement seemed primitive by comparison. Ambassador Zethka finally found his voice. "How is this possible? Our scientists have studied the universe for millions of years. There are laws of physics that cannot be broken." Commander Chen looked at him with something that might have been sympathy. "Ambassador, we appreciate what you've shown us today. Your technology is very impressive within its limitations, but we've found that the universe has far fewer absolute laws than most species assume." The silence that followed was deafening. For the first time in galactic history, a primitive species had demonstrated technology that made the Federation look backward, and somehow, that was just the beginning. The emergency session of the Federation Council had been called within hours of the human demonstration. Representatives from every major species crowded into the chamber, their voices creating a buzz of nervous energy that filled the vast space. Ambassador Zethka stood at the center podium, still trying to process what he had witnessed. Around him, the greatest minds in the galaxy struggled to understand technologies that seemed to mock everything they thought they knew about science. "The quantum resonance readings make no sense," Dr. Velshan was saying to a group of ethereal scientists. "Their devices operate outside our understanding of dimensional physics." Chancellor Morketh, the ancient Gorlan who led the Federation Council, raised one massive hand for silence. His species had founded the Federation over 1,000,000 years ago, and his deep voice carried the weight of eons of authority. "We have gathered to discuss the human situation," he rumbled. "What they have shown us changes everything." The Crix delegate clicked rapidly, the sound translating as urgent concern. "If humans possess such technology, why do their ships appear so primitive? Why do they still use metal hulls and chemical propulsion?" "Camouflage," suggested Dr. Velshan quietly. "They want to appear less advanced than they are." "But why?" asked the ethereal representative, her voice like wind through crystal. "What species deliberately hides superior technology?" Chancellor Morketh turned his ancient eyes toward the entrance. "Perhaps we should ask them directly. The human delegation is waiting outside." The chamber fell silent as Commander Chen entered, flanked by her two advisors. They walked calmly to the center of the room, seemingly unbothered by hundreds of alien eyes watching their every move. "Commander Chen," Chancellor Morketh began formally, "what we have witnessed today has unsettled us. Your technology appears to violate several fundamental laws that have governed galactic civilization for millions of years." Chen nodded respectfully. "I understand your confusion, Chancellor. Different species often develop along different technological paths." "Different paths, yes," interrupted Dr. Velshan, "but not impossible paths. Your devices should not be able to function according to known physics." "Known to whom?" Dr. Webb asked quietly. The question hung in the air like a challenge. Dr. Velshan sputtered, "Known to science. To the Federation's greatest minds. We have studied the universe for longer than your species has existed." Engineer Park smiled slightly. "And yet you've missed quite a lot, haven't you?" Ambassador Zethka stepped forward quickly, trying to maintain diplomatic protocol. "What Commander Chen's team has shown us is remarkable, which is why the Federation Council has prepared an unprecedented offer." He activated a holographic display that showed star maps, trade routes, and resource allocations. "We offer humanity full membership in the Federation, Not the usual probationary status, but immediate voting rights in the Council. Access to our most classified technologies. Control over entire star systems of your choosing. The display expanded to show massive industrial complexes, research stations, and fleets of advanced ships. We offer unlimited resources for human development, scientific collaboration with our greatest minds, and in return, he paused dramatically. We ask only that humanity share their technological advances with the Federation. Together we could unlock secrets of the universe that neither of our civilizations could discover alone. It was the most generous offer in Federation history. Several delegates nodded approvingly, certain that no species could refuse such terms. Commander Chen looked at Dr. Webb and Engineer Park. Something passed between them. Not words, but some form of communication that the Federation's sensors couldn't detect. That's very generous, Chancellor, Chen said finally. We appreciate the offer. Excellent, Zethka exclaimed. When can we begin the technology transfer protocols? We can't, Chen replied simply. The words fell like stones into still water. Chancellor Morketh leaned forward, his massive frame creaking. I'm sorry, I don't understand. Are the terms insufficient? We can negotiate further. No, Chancellor. The terms are very fair, but we have to decline. For several seconds, nobody spoke. The concept was so foreign that the Federation's universal translator struggled to process it correctly. Decline, Dr. Velshan whispered. You're refusing to join the Federation? Not refusing to join, Chen clarified. Refusing to share our core technologies. We're happy to engage in cultural exchange, limited trade, and diplomatic cooperation, but our advanced technologies will remain human only. The chamber erupted. Delegates from dozens of species began speaking at once, their voices creating a cacophony of disbelief and confusion. This is unprecedented, shouted the Krik's representative. No species has ever refused Federation membership. Added an ethereal Chancellor Morketh raised his hand again, restoring order through sheer presence. Commander Chen, perhaps you don't understand what you're refusing. The Federation offers peace, prosperity, and advancement beyond anything your species could achieve alone. Chen's expression remained calm. We understand perfectly, Chancellor, and we're grateful for the offer, but humanity prefers to maintain technological independence. Independence. Ambassador Zethka couldn't hide his confusion. But why would you want independence from advancement? From progress? Dr. Webb stepped forward slightly. Who says your path is the only form of progress, Ambassador? The question struck like lightning. The Federation had spent millions of years convinced that their way was the only way, that technological, sharing and unified development were the natural evolution of intelligent species. You don't understand, Dr. Velshan said desperately. Isolation leads to stagnation. The Federation model has brought peace and prosperity to thousands of worlds. Your model has brought uniformity, Engineer Park replied quietly. Every Federation world looks the same, thinks the same, uses the same technologies. Where's the innovation in that? Chancellor Morketh's ancient eyes narrowed. You speak of innovation, yet you refuse to share your advances with others. How is that not selfish? Commander Chen met his gaze steadily. Chancellor, if we shared our technologies with the Federation, what would happen to them? They would be studied, improved, and distributed for the benefit of all civilized species. Standardized, you mean? Regulated? Controlled? Optimized, Zethka protested. The Federation's approach ensures maximum efficiency and safety. And minimum creativity, Dr. Webb added. Tell me, Ambassador, when was the last time a Federation scientist made a truly revolutionary discovery? Not an incremental improvement to existing technology, but something genuinely new? The silence that followed was telling. We've been observing your civilization for longer than you know, Chen continued. The Federation is impressive, but it's also stagnant. You've perfected the art of managing existing knowledge, but you've forgotten how to create new knowledge. That's absurd, Dr. Velshan snapped. Our research institutions are the finest in the galaxy. Your research institutions focus on optimizing technologies that are millions of years old, Park replied. When was the last time someone in the Federation questioned a fundamental assumption about how the universe works? The delegates looked uncomfortable. The truth was that Federation science had become increasingly conservative over the millennia, focused on perfecting established principles rather than exploring new ones. You're making a mistake, Chancellor Morketh said gravely. Isolation from the galactic community leads only to conflict and suffering. Chen shook her head. We're not isolating ourselves, Chancellor. We're maintaining our independence while engaging with the galaxy on our own terms. There's a difference, and if we refuse to accept those terms, the question came from General Cax Vel, the Federation's military commander. If we decide that human technology poses a threat to galactic stability? The temperature in the room seemed to drop several degrees. Commander Chen's expression didn't change, but something in her posture shifted slightly. General, that would be inadvisable. Are you threatening the Federation? Cax Vel demanded. I'm stating a fact, Chen replied calmly. Humanity didn't develop these technologies for conquest, but we're perfectly capable of defending ourselves if necessary. Dr. Webb smiled slightly. General, you've seen a few parlor tricks. You haven't seen what human technology can actually do when we're serious about it. The implications hung heavy in the air. The Federation had spent millions of years as the supreme military power in the galaxy. The idea that a newly discovered species might actually pose a threat was almost incomprehensible. Chancellor Morketh studied the humans for a long moment. What do you want from us, Commander Chen? Nothing, Chancellor. We want to be neighbors, not subjects. We're willing to establish trade relationships, share cultural knowledge, and cooperate on matters of mutual interest. But we won't surrender our technological independence for the privilege of Federation membership. This is madness, Dr. Velshan muttered. No species can survive alone in the galaxy. Commander Chen looked around the chamber one final time. Chancellor, members of the Council, we thank you for your time and your offer. But humanity's answer remains the same. We appreciate the invitation, but we'll find our own way forward. She turned and walked toward the exit, her advisors following. As they reached the door, she paused and looked back. Oh, and Chancellor, you might want to prepare the Federation for the fact that we probably won't be the lastest. The news of humanity's refusal spread through Federation space like wildfire. Within days, every major world knew that the impossible had happened. A primitive species had rejected Federation membership, and all the benefits that came with it. Ambassador Zethka found himself fielding urgent communications from across the galaxy. His office had become a hub of desperate activity as various Federation officials tried to understand and respond to the human situation. Sir, Tikmal announced nervously, we have another priority message from the Altarian Trade Consortium. Zethka sighed and accepted the transmission. The holographic image of Director Yilnach materialized, her crystalline features reflecting obvious agitation. Ambassador, she began without preamble, my consortium is prepared to offer the humans exclusive trading rights to the Outer Rim colonies in exchange for access to their self-repair technology. Director, I must remind you that all contact with the humans is supposed to go through official Federation channels. Official channels have failed. Yilnach snapped. The Council had its chance and accomplished nothing. My people are not bound by your diplomatic failures. The transmission ended abruptly, leaving Zethka staring at empty air. It was the fifth unauthorized contact attempt he'd learned about that day. The Federation's unity was beginning to crack under the pressure of human technological superiority. Dr. Velshan burst into the office without announcing himself. His usually neat appearance disheveled from days of frantic research. Ambassador, we have a problem. A big problem. What now? Zethka asked wearily. We've been trying to analyze the quantum signatures from the human devices. Our best scientists have been working around the clock. Dr. Velshan activated a portable holographic projector. These are the energy readings from their self-repair demonstration. The display showed a complex web of energy patterns that seemed to shift and flow like living things. According to our analysis, their technology operates on at least 7 dimensions beyond our normal space-time. We can detect the effects, but we can't even begin to understand the principles involved. Zethka felt a chill of fear. Are you saying we can't replicate their technology? I'm saying we can't even properly study it. It's like trying to understand music by looking at the shadows it casts on a wall. Before Zethka could respond, another urgent message arrived. This one came from General Caxveld himself. Ambassador, I need you in the military command center immediately. We have a situation. The military complex was a stark contrast to the elegant diplomatic chambers. Here, efficiency took precedence over beauty. Screens displayed tactical information from across Federation space, and the air hummed with the tension of constant vigilance. General Caxwell stood before a massive holographic display showing ship movements throughout the galaxy. Red dots marked human vessels, and there were far more of them than anyone had expected. "Look at this," the general said grimly, highlighting a section of space near the Vegan trade hub. 3 days ago, we detected 5 human ships in this sector. Today there are 50. Reinforcements? Zethka suggested. That's what we thought at first. But watch this. Caxwell manipulated the display to show temporal data. These aren't new arrivals. The ships just appeared. Our sensors show no evidence of travel, no energy signatures consistent with known propulsion systems. Admiral Teshkol, a veteran ethereal officer, drifted closer in her containment suit. "General, we've confirmed similar events in the Kepler sector, the Orion Arm, and the Galactic Core regions. Human ships are manifesting throughout Federation space." "Manifesting?" Zethka repeated. "That's impossible." "So we thought," General Caxwell replied, "but the humans seem to specialize in impossible things." The display zoomed out to show the entire galaxy. Red dots were scattered across thousands of star systems, representing human presence in regions that should have taken centuries to reach with conventional travel. "Sir," a young communications officer called out, "we're receiving unauthorized transmissions between human vessels. They're using their dimensional folding communication system." "Can we intercept the messages?" Caxwell asked. "No, sir. The signals don't travel through normal space. We can detect that communication is happening, but we can't access the content." Zethka stared at the display in growing alarm. "General, how many human ships are we detecting now?" "Over 3,000 scattered across Federation space. And the number keeps growing." Admiral Teshkol's voice carried centuries of military experience. "General, this deployment pattern is not random. They're positioning themselves near critical infrastructure, communication relays, trade hubs, military installations." "Are they preparing an attack?" someone asked. "Unknown," Caxwell replied grimly. "But if they are, we have no effective way to stop them. Our weapons are designed to fight conventional enemies, not ships that can apparently teleport at will." The meeting was interrupted by an urgent message from Chancellor Morketh himself. The ancient Gorland's image filled the central display, his expression grave. "All department heads report to Emergency Council Session 7 immediately. We have received communications from 17 different member worlds, all requesting permission to negotiate independently with the humans." The emergency session revealed the depth of the Federation's crisis. Representatives who had stood united for millennia now argued openly about how to respond to the human situation. "The Centauri Republic is offering the humans mining rights to their entire asteroid belt," reported the Trade Minister. "The Andromedan colonies want to hire human engineers to upgrade their planetary defenses," added another delegate. "This is madness," Dr. Velshan protested. "We're talking about sharing our resources with a species that refuses to reciprocate." Chancellor Morketh's voice boomed across the chamber. "The situation is deteriorating rapidly. Several member worlds are threatening to withdraw from the Federation if we don't find a way to access human technology." Ambassador Zethka stood to address the council. "Chancellor, perhaps we should consider more aggressive negotiation tactics, such as economic pressure, trade restrictions. We could make it clear that species who refuse Federation membership face difficulties in galactic commerce." The suggestion was met with uncomfortable silence. The Federation had never needed to use such tactics before. "And if the humans are capable of economic self-sufficiency?" asked the ethereal delegate. "Their technology suggests they may not need our trade networks." General Caxwell stepped forward. "There is another option. Military acquisition." The chamber erupted in shocked voices. Chancellor Morketh raised his hand for silence. "Explain, General." "A surgical strike against human installations. Capture their technology for analysis. Present them with the choice between cooperation and conquest. You're talking about war against a species whose capabilities we don't understand," Admiral Teshkol warned. "I'm talking about protecting Federation interest," Caxwell replied. "We cannot allow a single species to destabilize the entire galactic order." Dr. Velshan was frantically manipulating his datapad. "General, I must advise against military action. Our preliminary analysis suggests that human defensive capabilities may be extensive." "Meaning?" meaning we have no idea what weapons they might possess. If their civilian technology is this advanced, their military technology could be beyond our comprehension. Chancellor Moore-Keth studied the tactical displays thoughtfully. What are our options for peaceful resolution? We could offer them territorial autonomy, suggested one delegate. A sector of space under human control, with Federation protection. We could grant them special status as technological advisors, offered another. We could make them a protectorate, with all the benefits of membership but fewer obligations. Each suggestion was more desperate than the last. The Federation was offering concessions that would have been unthinkable weeks before. Sir, Tikmal interrupted quietly. We're receiving a transmission from Commander Chen. The chamber fell silent as Chen's image appeared on the main display. She looked calm and professional, as if she were discussing routine diplomatic matters rather than the potential collapse of galactic civilization. Chancellor Moore-Keth, members of the Federation Council, we understand that our presence in Federation space has caused concern. We want to assure you that we have no hostile intentions. Then why are you deploying thousands of ships throughout our territory? General Caxwell demanded. Chen's expression didn't change.
General, we're exploring the galaxy.
It's what humans do. We're not aware that any species has exclusive claim to interstellar space. The Federation has maintained peace in this galaxy for millions of years, Chancellor Moore-Keth rumbled. And we respect that achievement, Chancellor. But we're not asking you to maintain peace for us. We can take care of ourselves, Dr. Velshan leaned forward desperately. Commander, surely we can reach some accommodation. The Federation is prepared to offer unprecedented concessions in exchange for technological cooperation. Dr. Velshan, we appreciate the Federation's flexibility in its negotiating position, but our answer remains the same. We're happy to coexist peacefully, but we won't surrender our independence. General Caxwell's patience finally snapped. And if the Federation count? 6 months had passed since first contact, and the Federation Council chamber felt different. The confident atmosphere of galactic supremacy had been replaced by an undercurrent of uncertainty that no amount of diplomatic protocol could hide, Ambassador. Zethka reviewed the reports one final time before the meeting. The numbers painted a picture of a civilization in crisis. 17 member worlds had formally requested independent negotiation rights with humanity. The Altarian Trade Consortium had begun developing their own first contact protocols, bypassing Federation authority entirely. 3 major research institutions had redirected their entire budgets toward attempting to understand human technology, with 0 success. Most troubling of all, human ships now outnumbered Federation vessels in several key sectors. They moved through space with casual disregard for established trade routes and territorial boundaries, going wherever they pleased with technology that made Federation tracking systems look like children's toys. Sir, Tikmal announced, Commander Chen has arrived for the final diplomatic session. Zethka nodded grimly. This meeting would determine whether the Federation could salvage any semblance of authority in the new galactic order, or whether they would have to accept an entirely different reality. Commander Chen entered the chamber alone this time. She walked with the same calm confidence she'd shown at their first meeting, but now Zethka understood what he was seeing. It wasn't arrogance or naivety. It was the assurance of someone who knew exactly how powerful they were, and felt no need to prove it. Chancellor Moore-Keth occupied his traditional position at the center of the council, but his ancient presence seemed diminished somehow. The weight of millions of years of unquestioned authority had been shaken by 6 months of watching humanity casually ignore everything the Federation thought it understood about galactic civilization. Commander Chen, the Chancellor began formally, we have requested this meeting to discuss the current situation between our civilizations. Chen took her position at the center of the chamber and nodded respectfully. Of course, Chancellor. How can I help? The simple question carried implications that made several delegates shift uncomfortably. The human was offering to help the Federation, as if they were the ones who needed assistance. Dr. Velshan stepped forward first, his scientific curiosity overcoming diplomatic protocol. Commander, in the past 6 months, our research teams have made no progress in understanding your technology. We've analyzed energy signatures, studied quantum resonance patterns, even attempted to reverse engineer devices from long-range scans. Nothing works. I'm sorry to hear that, Chen replied sympathetically, though I'm not surprised. Why? Dr. Velshan asked desperately. What are we missing? Chen considered the question carefully. Doctor, imagine trying to explain quantum mechanics to someone who doesn't believe in atoms. The Federation has spent millions of years perfecting technologies based on certain assumptions about how the universe works. Those assumptions aren't wrong exactly, but they're incomplete. General Cax Vel, who had been quietly studying tactical reports, looked up sharply. Are you saying Federation science is primitive? I'm saying it's limited, Chen replied diplomatically. The Federation discovered certain principles of physics and built a magnificent civilization around them. But you stopped looking for new principles centuries ago. Admiral Teshkol's ethereal voice carried frustration. Commander, we've observed human vessels performing maneuvers that violate conservation of energy. Ships appearing instantly across vast distances. Matter that repairs itself without external energy input. These things are impossible, Chen smiled slightly. Admiral, 200 years ago your own ancestors would have said that faster-than-light communication was impossible. Yet here you are talking to representatives across the galaxy in real time. That's different, Dr. Velshan protested. FTL communication follows established quantum principles. Principles you discovered through experimentation and theoretical exploration, Chen pointed out. What makes you think you've discovered all the principles there are to find? The question hung in the air like a challenge to everything the Federation believed about itself. Ambassador Zethka decided to address the real issue. Commander, the Federation Council has authorized me to make one final offer. Complete autonomy for humanity within designated space. No interference in your internal affairs. Access to Federation resources and protection. And in return, you want our technology. Chen finished. We want cooperation, Zethka corrected. Shared advancement. The betterment of all galactic civilizations. Chen was quiet for a long moment, and when she spoke, her voice carried a sadness that surprised everyone in the chamber. Ambassador, do you know what the real tragedy is in all of this? You're so focused on acquiring our technology that you're missing the point entirely. What point? Chancellor Morketh rumbled. The point is that technology isn't something you acquire, Chancellor. It's something you create. The Federation has become so good at managing existing knowledge that you've forgotten how to discover new knowledge. Dr. Velshan stepped forward urgently. But surely you can teach us your methods. Share your theoretical frameworks. Chen shook her head. Doctor, if I gave you the complete technical specifications for our dimensional folding systems, what would happen to them? They would be studied, optimized, and integrated into Federation technology standards, Dr. Velshan replied automatically. Exactly. They would become just another tool in the Federation toolbox, subject to your regulations and safety protocols. The spark of creativity that led to their development would be bureaucratized out of existence. The accusation struck home. Several delegates looked uncomfortable as they recognized the truth in her words. What would you have us do? Chancellor Morketh asked. Abandon the civilization we've built? Reject the peace and stability we've maintained for millennia? I would have you remember that civilization is supposed to grow, Chen replied. The Federation has created something remarkable, but you've also created something static. You've optimized yourselves out of the ability to evolve. General Caxvel's voice carried barely controlled frustration. And you think humanity is better? You think your way is superior? Chen looked at him with something approaching pity. General, I think our way is different. Whether it's better remains to be seen, but at least we're still moving forward. She walked to the center of the chamber, where the holographic display showed the familiar map of Federation space. With a gesture, she activated her own device, and suddenly the display expanded beyond anything the Federation had ever seen. The galaxy stretched out before them, but now it was filled with indicators of civilizations the Federation had never detected. Hundreds of species, thousands of worlds, entire sectors of space teeming with life and intelligence that had somehow remained hidden from Federation sensors. This is what the galaxy actually looks like, Chen said quietly. The Federation controls perhaps 10% of galactic civilization. You've been so focused on managing your own territory that you never realized how much you were missing. The silence was profound. Dr. Velshan stared at the display with his mouth open. Admiral Teshkol's containment suit hummed with agitation. Chancellor Morketh's ancient features showed something that might have been shock. Impossible. Dr. Velshawn whispered. Our sensors would have detected other civilizations. Your sensors detect what they're designed to detect, Chen replied. Other species have learned to exist outside those parameters. Ambassador Zethka found his voice. Are you saying there are civilizations more advanced than humanity? Some, yes. Others are less advanced but developing along completely different technological paths. The universe is far more diverse than the Federation has ever imagined. She gestured again, and the display zoomed in on several highlighted regions. There's a species in the Magellanic Clouds that has learned to manipulate time itself. Another group near the galactic core that exists partially outside normal space-time, and there are others that make human technology look primitive by comparison. Why are you showing us this? Chancellor Morketh asked quietly. Chen turned to face him directly. Because the Federation's age of technological dominance is ending, whether you accept it or not. Other species are developing capabilities that make your current paradigm obsolete. You can adapt to the new reality or you can be left behind. General Caxvel stepped forward aggressively. And if we choose to fight? If we decide to use military force to maintain Federation authority? Chen's expression didn't change, but something in the chamber's atmosphere shifted. The human's calm confidence suddenly felt less like diplomacy and more like barely contained power. General, in the past 6 months, humanity has established a presence throughout this galaxy. We've done so without asking permission, without following your protocols, and despite your best efforts to track and control our movements. Do you really think military force would be effective against us? She paused, letting the implications sink in. But more importantly, do you think we're the only species out there with capabilities beyond Federation understanding? Because I can assure you we're not. The threat was subtle but unmistakable. The Federation could choose to fight humanity and discover just how outmatched they